I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
That's right, everybody. Alex is addicted to VR. William has some questions, and President Lincoln has feelings. Nothing more than feelings. CW Supergirl Season 5, Episode 16, Alex in Wonderland. We're talking all about it right now, right here on AfterBuzz. The AfterBuzz After Show starts right now with me, your host. I am Tehran, alongside my main man, Ryan, in the booth. What's up, Ryan Nilsson?
Yo, what's going on? It's quarantine time. A lot of us are faring better than others, and I wish we all had a real-life Supergirl. Oh, wait, we're going to hear about one later in the show. How are you doing?
I regret every time I bring... You remind me of Supergirl because I want you to succeed. You know what I'm saying? I want you to succeed. I regret every time I throw to Ryan. However, I'm grateful to have you in the booth as the support, showing love and always having my back. As we're talking CW Supergirl Season 5, Episode 16, Alex in Wonderland. This episode, we're going to get into a lot of things that happen. We are now looking into the arc that's going to lead us into the season finale, which we also have some news on as well. The breakdown is thus: Alex and her daddy issues. Alex goes Obsidian. Kelly psychoanalyzes. William needs a favor. That hunt with William and Kelly being teammates with Andrea. A lot of things are underlaid right there. Andrea withholds funds and possibly information. We have some news and gossip. It's going to directly relate to Supergirl. It's going to contradict our news and gossip from last week. It is breaking news. You're going to want to stay tuned. We also choose a Supergirl each and every week, a hero who helps change the world. This week's Supergirl is going to be Rita Wilson, who is an actor, philanthropist, and of course, is married to Tom Hanks. Notice I did not call Rita Wilson Tom Hanks' wife, because a lot of times, especially after this week, it is the other way around. We do have some predictions and more. My overall thoughts on this week's episode: overall, to be very honest, this week's episode seems to be a bridge. So was it the best episode? No. Was it the worst episode? No. It was a middle of the road episode that was fun, entertaining, and great fight scenes with ideas and concepts we've seen before, tropes we've seen before, however, now introduced into the Supergirl world. It had a lot of similarities for me to Ready Player One, if you've read the book or even watched the movie, and or Inception. So the dream within a dream sequence, or this VR world where people go to escape their real lives, as we saw in Ready Player One or Reddit, depending on which one you did. That concept was made large in the Supergirl episode this week, especially with Alex being an Obsidian. The episode itself, it didn't have much to do with anything, since it was one of those dream sequence episodes. If you've ever familiarize yourself with that dream sequence trope where something happens, but it's not real because it's a dream. And then you have the second one, that second layer, that inception layer of, I know this is a dream, but now I'm stuck in this reality. And how do I get myself out? Those two tropes played into it heavily. We did get that note on Alex's father, Jeremiah, with the daddy issues. We've seen this before, since Jeremiah has come and gone in so many various forms and ways in previous episodes. Of course, being that Alex and Kara thought that Jeremiah was dead, he was secretly behind everything at Cadmus. Once again, they're thinking that Jeremiah is being used by Cadmus, when it turns out he was possibly the brains of Cadmus and dead again. And now this third retelling of Jeremiah being found in the Andes, where he found John Jones. If you remember, that was the whole thing in the jungle with Henshaw. John Jones plays both this week, simply because that is the shape. If you were wondering why is Henshaw and John Jones, why do they look alike? John Jones takes the shape of Henshaw, the DEO leader who was there when he was found and is actually an aggressive bad person. John Jones reforms it into a better Henshaw, who actually, if you remember in season one, really know that Henshaw and John Jones were different people yet, because that was the mystery, a big founding piece of information which we got in season one. So now it's been so far removed that a lot of people forgot that tidbit, simply because it's not comic book lore. It is specifically created in many ways for Supergirl, the CW show, and in the Arrowverse. So we have to remember that as we realize Alex and her daddy issues. Alex has gone through a lot of things with her father, Jeremiah. She was in many ways a daddy's girl. Kara comes along. Daddy, as this member of Cadmus, is basically overprotective of Kara because she is this eighth wonder, this amazing specimen who he takes care of, and in doing so, basically relinquishes father duty towards Alex and thinks of Alex more as a peer and or an employee and or a worker, to always watch Kara, to always take care of Kara, to put Kara first. And Alex has built up resentment, which we see in this episode. We've seen tidbits of it before, but not like what we saw in this episode, with her coming to terms with her father's death and unwillingness to go to the funeral, and to see how she can help even her own mother, Eliza, reconcile with this. So Jeremiah's gone, and they found him in Andy's. Now, what I wasn't sure of is, why is Alex so upset? Because as we combine and merge the worlds, how does she know this is her Jeremiah? That kind of things are what is left in the abyss of the Supergirl mythology of what's going on with the combination of the Arrowverse into one single verse. What the concept is, how do we know what is real, what is pertinent, and what is relevant at any given time? I've been going through that over in my mind, and I know when it comes to time travel and interdimensional travel, there's always that wibbly wobbly ideology of uh, a magical ideology that comes together and forms into one, but it's still always a tad bit difficult to understand which one is true, which one matters, and which one should we just simply not care about. However, for whatever reason, Alex is very affected by the death of Jeremiah and is coming to this realization of all the things that have happened to her growing up, going through things with her father, going through things with Kara, and we get a tad bit of Kara envy, which leads us into Alex going into Obsidian to get away from the achy breakiness of her heart, which she seems and claims isn't affecting her, and she just doesn't want to deal with it. She goes into Obsidian, and that's in many ways what Obsidian is created for, this virtual reality world in which, as we see Andrea personally point out, has to do with the psychological health of veterans and people with PTSD and other forms of psychological lacks and developments. Therefore, we see that when it comes to Alex, she goes into Obsidian trying to get away from her problems. Something even do. A lot of people play video games. We end up watching a lot of shows because that reality is better than our own. I can only imagine what it must be like if you have VR, if you have virtual reality technology at your disposal that feels real, is real. When she's inside, Alex claims how real, she's surprised by how real it all feels. And that's what VR Obsidian Platinum is bringing to the world. Of course, we're going to get into the Lex angle later as we talk about William. Right now, I'm simply focusing on the concept of Alex and the storyline of her inside Obsidian, because we saw something with her Kara envy on the outside and now turns into Supergirl, a nod, a foreshadow from last week's Reality Bites, where we see the Supergirl icon as she swipes through to get in to save Trevor from Richard Bates. So when we see that, we also are wondering, what is the Supergirl Alex icon? Well, we get to find out this week right away. Alex goes into the VR Obsidian Platinum, and she is, in effect, Supergirl. What I didn't fully understand is, why is everyone sharing a VR space? This is how it reminded me of Ready Player One. And if everyone shares this VR space, then why would everyone not be Supergirl or not have superpowers or not have more? In fact, if you're designing your own character, why would you limit yourself to Supergirl? Not that Supergirl is a very limited character, but compared to us, she's Supergirl, but compared to my imagination, she's just a regular person. I would create way more powers, have way more things that I would be able to do in a virtual reality world than if I could go in and just be this person. So oftentimes when you play that game, what powers would you have? My answer personally is always godlike powers without godlike responsibility. Why would I limit it to flying or teleporting or running fast or shooting lasers out of my eyes or whatever other limited powers people can think of? I would have basically an unimaginable almost limitless amount of powers. I would be able to do anything, and that's what it seems if you're going to VR world. And now because you have decided that you are Supergirl, you have Supergirl capabilities, then why would you only limit yourself to Supergirl capabilities? Why not expand? You can, even if you're not a very imaginative person, you could always be like, well, I have the powers of Supergirl and John Jones. Now what? So now I have psychic powers and shape-shifting powers and even more super strength. I just didn't understand that and how everyone's in the same world, because we met people in this new world. We met Bonnie, or Tilly the treasure hunter, who had her Indiana Jones outfit on and basically flew away in a helicopter for the first time, and then re-met Alex in the bar. The first sign of trouble was from Tilly or Bonnie, whichever one. Her real name is Bonnie, but in the VR world, she's Tilly. And so Tilly basically doesn't realize that she's living in VR. That was the first sign of trouble, especially for Alex. That's when Alex should have escaped. However, we saw that John Jones, three stripes, meaning that they weren't real. And of course, Brainy, three stripes, also not real. VR Brainy and VR John Jones go in and convince Alex to stay. And it didn't take much convincing Alex wanted to stay, because there's some type of, I'm assuming, addictive, an addictiveness to the VR, to Obsidian. And we get addicted to Netflix, we get addicted to video games. So I can only imagine what kind of addiction there will be when VR becomes a reality, because it is quickly becoming a reality, even in our dimension, which is the most unimportant one of them all. So we go into this world, we get Bonnie, we get the guitar player Derek, which also, once again, these are characters that were fun, but to be very honest, they were a little bit pointless. I understand why we had Tilly. Tilly needed to exist in order to show us that VR is addictive. And Alex asked her the question, "How long have you been in here?" And she thinks that she's living in the real world. But Derek was kind of a little bit much. That was a nod. Tilly says specifically, "Well, Derek's been in here too long." Then we get the host of the open mic, who zaps away someone who disagrees. Question: do you die in real life if you die in VR? It's not supposed to happen that way, obviously. However, we see someone be evaporated, and everyone in the audience just laugh. And Alex herself looks around and then also begins to laugh. So, is dying a surefire way to get kicked out of the program or to die in real life? We're not fairly positive on how that plays out, because we're not positive on what Lex Luthor's intent is with all this VR. The Obsidian Platinum, as we see, Lex Luthor is one of the main people behind it, is one of the people on the board. We know that there's some type of, at least in disingenuous factor to his good guy persona that the world has bought into, all as a result of the unifying Arrowverse into one single world. So how do we play this out? What is wrong with Obsidian? Why is there that patch not being fixed? Why is the Richard Bates glitch, as we call it, not fixed? Does grief specifically play into the VR susceptibility, as we realize Tilly's going through the grief of losing her sister, and Alex, of course, of losing her father? And the powers that Alex displayed were actually what I would feel like are superior to those of Kara. And why is Alex is she actually this jealous of Kara that her secret fantasy is to be Supergirl? And is Kara's secret fantasy simply to be Alex, to live a regular life, to not have to have the burden of the world and saving the world on her shoulders? As we see, as Alex has Kelly, and Kara says, at least she has you. Because Kara is also going through the death of her father, or at least her father figure. She thinks of Eliza as her mom. Calls her mother. When it comes to Jeremiah, she does tend to call Jeremiah Jeremiah. However, there has to be some type of paternity closeness, some fatherly love there, simply because he was the man that raised her after her family sent her from Krypton. So these are the things that we kind of get to touch on, but we never get a full psychoanalyzation of. As far as psychoanalyzation goes, Kelly does have some psychoanalyzation of what is going on with Alex, and Alex gets very mad. We asked and we did receive. Alex and Kelly are now together more. We're seeing more signs of their relationship. We're looking at them together. We're seeing them get into this bickering fight, which a lot of people have seen a fight of an emotional nature. You're mad about something else, you project it onto your partner. That's an unfortunate byproduct of any intimate relationship. We see that happen. It's just one of those things where we need to understand Kelly and Alex need to be shown in a good light before we start seeing them in some bad ones. Now, thankfully, Kelly does not give up on Alex. Thankfully, Kelly, even though she gives her space, doesn't give her too much space because she's the one that finds Alex, who's deep in this trance. And if you know, the Obsidian Platinum eye patches have gone from blue, which seems to be healthy, to this pink purplish aura, almost red, and that seems to be or mean that they are now defunct, or they're malfunctioning, or they are actually functioning properly because they are part of this Andrea, Gemma, Lex Luthor plan. This episode, however, who had initially been under the impression that Andrea was in on the plot, I started questioning that, especially with the end. If you remember, we see Andrea, who seems like she's withholding funds and withholding information. She's doing neither, as she goes immediately and says, Richard Bates' glitch must be patched. We need to get this fixed. I need this done before anything goes on. She seems to be genuinely concerned. She does call Gemma. She attempts to get in contact with the board in order to find out what's going on. However, when it comes to Kelly, it almost comes off as she is in on it. She's trying to protect her product and her company, and possibly whatever mischievous trouble which is brewing on behalf of Lex and the board. Because Leviathan is still in the picture. We haven't heard about them for the last 2 weeks, but I'm assuming that storyline has not been dropped since we have no conclusion. I am giving Supergirl the benefit of the doubt. Leviathan cannot be dropped. We need to see what happens with Obsidian Platinum. We need Andrea, since she's manifested some of her powers, what's going on, or we've seen hints at it, what's going on with the manifestation. These are storylines that we and Supergirl cannot afford to drop, because as the audience, we have sat patiently and allowed them to take us on this tale. And so far, with storylines like this week and 2 weeks ago, when we're getting storylines that are not extremely relevant to an overall storyline or to a finale or some type of conclusions, while any other audience member might be wary, we as Supergirl fans are not. And by we, I am including all of you, because thank you all for listening, watching, and being a part of this panel each and every week. You have made us the best Supergirl after show on the planet. You all at home are, if not as much, more so a part of this panel than we in studio, even though we are at home now as well, thanks to the quarantine. So Ryan is working remotely, I'm working remotely, and all of you are as well. Thank you so much for making us the ESPN of TV talk. If you're listening to us on iTunes, give us that 5 stars. You so greatly deserve. Ryan, where can people tweet us?
You can tweet us at Tehran Supergirl After Show. We have a wonderful Twitter on there, a solid 49 followers, going strong. And you know what, guys? Until we can receive with an open heart, we are never truly going to be able to give with an open heart. So please give us those follows, then we can give you those tweets.
I'm starting to hate you, Ryan. Did you just akin this to giving with an open heart? This isn't a blood drive. We're just asking for followers. So, guys, if you're at home, everyone, I just want you to give us 5 stars, give those thumbs up, likes, show comments, love, show love, share your support. We appreciate it very much. Thank you. And if you give with an open heart for 25 cents a day, thank you, guys. We appreciate you. Okay, let's discuss Kelly and William. William goes to Kelly and feels comfortable enough because we at least know that Kelly is on the good side, or at least we're assuming that may be a twist, but I would be shocked. William goes to Kelly and basically asks for help, stating that everywhere Lex goes, there's these 32 satellites. Are they needed for Obsidian? They're not. And then, of course, we're made aware of the Richard Bates glitch and the whole concept of people being stuck in the VR. And is this a part of Luthor's actual plan? Is this what Luthor is up to secretly? It might be. I mean, it is Lex Luthor after all. This is evil incarnate in many ways, as brilliant as this man is. Of course, he's got a second, third, and fourth agenda. Is this the agenda? To get everyone stuck in the VR for some reason and have them always be there. That seems to be the play. William is still investigating and going around, at least it goes to Kelly. Kelly, of course, brings it to Andrea. Andrea seems to be withholding information and funds, however, seems to be concerned as well, because I think in some ways this is Andrea's baby. I'm going to give Andrea the benefit of the doubt. I think Andrea wants what's best for Obsidian, believes in this the way Lena does. Unfortunately, the road to hell is paved in good intentions. So good intentions alone does not get you into heaven and does not lead you to the righteous path. I wonder if this is what's happening. We are leading this path towards a hell for everybody because Luthor is pulling the strings. Lex is no dummy. Lex can, if anyone can make this happen, it is Lex. So we get this week's episode, which seems to be not as a fulfilling episode as every week, simply because most of it is not meat. It's not anything that we specifically need as we go along, except for the understanding that what? First, Obsidian Platinum can be dangerous and addictive. Secondly, that you can have powers in the Obsidian Platinum VR. Third, that it seems to play on people whose grief they're susceptible. People in grieving are susceptible. Fourth, we get this address 5532 3rd Street, National City, which leads us to a place we as the audience have seen before. The building with the EMT nurse who has everyone's body. We realize that out of all of the VR geeks, some of them have been missing and they all happen to be in this one place. William walks in, there's nothing there. So is there a link between the VR world and the real world that we're going to get where you can phase into one another, some type of interdimensionality of some sort? That's what seems to be at play here. And it's a very interesting place where we're left. So we get meat at the beginning, we get meat at the end, but in the middle of the show, it's a flashback almost. It seems to be one of those plays that happens in a lot of shows where you get the hollow deck where it's not real, basically. So hopefully we get a lot more real things in the future. Hopefully we get a little more of Kara and Alex's mom. We get to see her, but unfortunately not the real her. Another piece of information that's important, it's pertinent to remember, are the 3 stripes. When you see 3 stripes on someone's neck, it means that they're not real. Can you fake those 3 stripes? These are questions that we have. How did those work? How does the VR work, incorporate everybody into one world if everyone's storyline is basically being created from their own brainwaves, their own perception of things? So these are some questions that are left. We have a lot more questions at the end of this episode than we do have answers. However, when it comes to answers, we do have news and gossip.
AfterBuzz TV News.
That's close enough. Thank you so much, Ryan. So when it comes to news, last week we reported CW was hopeful that the quarantine and the coronavirus would not affect their schedule, and yet we see that this week they've announced that basically all of their shows are being affected by the quarantine, the season finale, and as such, we do know that everything hasn't been filmed, and as basically all production has shut down, we do not know how the season finale will play and how it will push back season 6, especially with Melissa being pregnant. So we get two pushbacks in a row and a confirmation that this season finale will be affected, may be pushed back, may end on a season finale that was not accounted for. So we will find that out. Thank you for being reported. We appreciate knowing this beforehand. Ryan, anything you'd like to add?
I'd just like to add a shout out to all the crew members who aren't really finding work in this time, and how you can your acceptance to this matter is in itself an art in which neither of us have bothered to cultivate. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it. And if you guys want to, if you all at home want to donate money to Ryan's fund, please find Ryan on
Not my
Instagram.
fund.
What's your Instagram?
Not my. You don't
Yeah,
need
just
to.
let's send
Oh,
money to Ryan. We
Tehran
need to send.
Supergirl show.
Yeah, are you sure? Because if you give a heart, I'll get a heart. We'll all have
It's
hearts.
Supergirl Tehran. It's at Supergirl Tehran.
Let's talk about our Shiro of the week, the Supergirl of the week, the person, the Shiro who helped change the world. We're going to talk about Rita Wilson. Rita Wilson popped into my radar simply because of the recent Naughty by Nature rap Rita Wilson did while in quarantine in order to encourage everybody and to show some type of remnants of normalcy during these tumultuous times, as uh, she has been she basically she's been, I'm looking for the word, she's been designated, no, she's been
She's been infected.
diagnosed. She's been diagnosed coronavirus positive. So Rita Wilson, thank you. Thank you, Ryan, for she's been infected. Yes, she's been diagnosed as positive, coronavirus positive, COVID 19. So Rita Wilson, born Margarita Abramoff, almost sounds like she should be Wanda Maximoff. Margarita Abramoff, know why she changed her name. Known professionally as Rita Wilson, she's basically been in so many different appearances. We've seen her in Volunteers, of course, Sleepless in Seattle, now and then, Jingle All the Way, The Story of Us, Runaway Bride, if you remember, it's complicated. And she has even produced several films, which include My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and uh, The Simple Wedding, which is a movie I was a part of, a production team, writing team, and in with Rita. And that's when I got to meet Rita, wonderful person.
Wow.
And I got to meet Tom Hanks, which was really great. She was born basically in Hollywood, California. So she was made for this. She was made from this. And she basically has roots, which are very interesting because her father is a Bulgarian Muslim. And that's something that's a very interesting piece of knowledge to know about her. She's had an amazing, illustrious career. But more importantly, a lot of people always know her as the person who married Tom Hanks. Basically, they've been married since, I believe, 1988. They have two sons, Chester and Truman. Wilson also is the stepmother to Colin and Elizabeth, and they even have a grandchild and two step grandchildren. So it's like a very, very included family. What's important about Rita Wilson, and this is how she tries to change the world. Not only does she try to take positive roles and affect positively, she's a huge philanthropist for over 20 years. They have been honorary co-chairs with Steven Spielberg and Kate Capshaw of the Women's Cancer Research Fund, WCRF, specializing in raising money for women's cancers. Um, and also, her she is also with alongside Rosie O'Donnell. They've done a lot of charitable work. One of the things they also support is the arts in Los Angeles, as she is a true Los Angelino, the Shakespeare Center of Los Angeles, which is actually a very vital part of the arts and unfortunately is very underfunded. And they raise money and support programs for underprivileged youth, musicians, and such. They also are part of the USC Show Off Foundation, and they're ambassadors, her and her husband, Tom Hanks. They work with AIDS Project Los Angeles. Amazing, amazing philanthropy. She also does a lot of activism with the one campaign where basically they urge women to serve as the head of G7 and effectively help development funding for UN summits and world peace and developmental goals for the generation. This is a very important, vital form of activism. So she empowers, she's active, she's a philanthropist, she married Tom Hanks. What more could you want from a Shiro? Thank you for your service, Rita Wilson. Can we jump into some predictions?
AfterBuzz TV predictions.
As I bring out the crystal ball, I predict that we're going to see a lot more between Kelly and William working together. William walks in at the end, and we see that phase shift of some sort in which people are there who are not there, or people are not there who are really there. We don't know. I think that is going to be a main source. Where I think we're going to see a tie-in between Leviathan and a clash between Leviathan and Lex, as they have a very similar agenda, and who gets to pull it off. I think the patch is being kept open on purpose under guards of Lex. I think Andrea's fishing around and William and Kelly's fishing around and snooping around in regards to this matter are going to get them into a lot of trouble, and Alex and Supergirl are going to have to come to the rescue. I also think we're going to finally get the Brainy storyline to come back on track and find out, how do we conclude with Brainy? We've been getting a lot of Alex. Hopefully we get a little more of Alex and Kelly, and much, much more. Until next week on CW Supergirl Season 5, we'll be talking so much more on episode 17. Please feel free to find me at I Am Tehran, IAMTEHRAN, all across the board. And of course, hosting and paneling on a slew of other AfterBuzz after shows, because all of your favorite TV shows are my favorite TV shows too. Ryan, where can people find you?
You can find me at Supergirl Tehran on Twitter and at Ryan Nilsson on Instagram.
Thank you so much for being with us. Until next week, Supergirl fans, up, up, and away.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.